Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast, where we talk about everything dog. Q&As with veterinarian professionals, rescue operators, everyday topics. We cover everything dog on this podcast. So make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media on both Instagram and Facebook. Thanks again for listening. Now here's that next episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast. This is your host, Brittany, and today we are joined by Lisa McCabe, the dog witch. So Lisa, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. I was taking a look earlier at your holistic approach and just how you try to help dogs have a calm and healthy and just successful life, using all of these different tools, kind of looking at the dog in a whole, not just focusing in on one or two things. And I think sometimes we get wrapped up in that, right? Like we focus solely on their diet. We focus solely on, taking them for walks. And your approach is very much like, let's look at everything. So we're going to get into a little bit of your philosophy there, but tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this line of work.
Yeah, no problem. So I started working with dogs way back in 2009. I started as dog walking. My own dog, Ziggy, was at home kind of most of the time. I was at home. I worked the regular 9 to 5 job, and I just really felt for him being on his own. And yeah, back then dog walking wasn't a thing. So my family were kind of like, "Oh, you're doing what?" All that time at university and all that money. And I got into that, and my interest in dogs just kind of grew from there. We adopted another dog, Zane, the year after I started that business, and he needed a lot of help. He was really struggling. He'd been abused and stuff before he came to us, and I wanted to learn how to help him live his best life and not just be kind of, dogs who are maybe reactive or whatever, or maybe labelled as problem dogs. They're naughty. And I knew that that wasn't the case with him. He just needed to learn how to live in the world. So it kind of grew arms and legs from there. And my approach to caring for dogs was always very holistic. Every dog is different. They're like humans, we all have different traits and personalities. And I wanted to bring that into my work when I was working with dogs. And over time, it just evolved. I learned as much as I could. I never quite got that time to implement it properly, and it became like a huge passion. And then when the pandemic came along and we weren't out walking dogs because everyone was at home, I decided that I would start building this side of the business, get really into it. I got like lots more qualifications and I learned more, and then I started building my own kind of framework as well, and it just kind of grew from there.
That's awesome. I love that you rescued a dog that had a little bit of behavioral issues. I did the same thing, and you don't know what you don't know. And so there was
Yeah.
so much to learn with him. I'm still learning. So we've now had him for 4 years, and I feel like I have constant lessons that I'm learning and kind of developing. And so I definitely hear you there. And I know that your focus is on empowering dog guardians with practical and holistic tools. And you do that by focusing on 6 key pillars of dog well-being. So tell us what those 6 pillars are, and then if you could talk about each of them.
Yeah, so I have developed it's called the SNB framework, and it's spelled SEEHNB. And this is just the 6 key pillars of dog health and wellbeing that I've identified over my career of working with dogs. And it stands for sleep, exercise, nutrition, environment, health and well-being, and behaviour. And that's kind of the 6 pillars that I kind of work through. So if one of those is out of alignment, then what you'll start to find is that those other things then start to fall apart. So like
Hmm.
if your nutrition isn't great, you'll know like from yourself, dogs are very much like humans, if we're not sleeping enough, then you know we'll start to experience stress, we'll maybe start to experience gut issues, things like that. And it's exactly the same for dogs. So you have to make sure that sleep is kind of, the main thing for your dog. If your dog's not getting enough sleep, especially when they're puppies, and
Hmm.
if they're not getting enough sleep, they can be just like angry little monsters, like when a toddler needs a nap. It's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like that. Um, and exercise as well, it's it's a funny thing to say because we all think of, we'll take our dogs for a walk and that's all the exercise they need. But they do need like mental stimulation as well. It depends what breed you have. At the moment, we share our life with a working Cocker Spaniel. He's a gun
Hmm.
dog. He needs much more stimulation than our older boys needed. So, we have to find ways of giving him puzzles and jobs to do and things around the house. So making sure that you get the right amount of exercise for the breed that you're sharing your life with as well, is absolutely key.
Hmm.
And the environment that your dog lives in, whether you're living in an apartment, whether you're living in a house, whether you're living in the city, whether you're living in a rural area, where your dog sleeps within the house. Is it beside the television that's really loud and blaring? Is there lights shining into their bed? Do you have, these scented oil plug-ins in the house? Do you put candles on? All of these things can affect our dog's health and well-being, but as dog parents, we don't necessarily think about these things. And the, the overall kind of health and well-being, just look at it holistically, like, what is impacting the health and well-being, how can we change these things? And it's all about, like practical everyday tools that I can give to you to help your dog so that you're not having to spend a fortune on going to the vet or, spend a fortune on supplements or certain foods. And then nutrition is really key. I always say if there's one thing that you can change about your dog's health and well-being, nutrition is absolutely key. Get loads of healthy, fresh foods, veggies, things, fruits and veggies and things like that. Your dog's the right amount of protein. And some people, like obviously, we live with Daniel. He is very active, so I need to make sure that I cover his protein to make sure that his muscles are recovering. And that's something that we maybe don't think of. We maybe go out on a big hike with our dog, and yep, we're tuned in, to our own bodies, and we have to take the protein to make sure our muscles recover. But we maybe wouldn't think about that for our dogs. We would maybe just give them their dinner as normal, and we wouldn't think, oh, hang on, their muscles need to recover as well.
Hmm.
The last one is behaviour. Has your dog suddenly started becoming reactive? Are they destroying things when you're going out? Have they changed in a way? And what's impacting that? And sometimes it is just something really simple, like having one of these essential oil plugins in, if it's got a synthetic oil in it, that can really affect dogs' behaviour. If they're not getting out and getting enough exercise, then again, that can affect their behaviour. If they're not getting the right nutrition, that can affect their behaviour. So all these things, all these six kind of pillars are interlinked. And if one of them starts going a bit skew if, a bit out of line, then sorry, I realised I used a really Scottish word there. You might not understand what I mean. So if things start going a bit out of alignment, then yeah, we have to kind of look at broadly and say, right, what's out of alignment with all these pillars? What can we do to put them back together again to then help your dog live its best life?
There's two things you mentioned that I'm, hanging a hat on. So number one is sleep. I am one of those people who I don't think about my dog's sleep a lot. I don't think a lot of us do. I think we just assume they'll sleep when they need to sleep. And I did learn a lesson with the last two dogs that I rescued. They were just so high strung or so anxious that they just wouldn't sleep during the day because they needed to know where I was and what I was doing. And I do think that had repercussions on their behavior because the less they slept, the worse their behavior got. And so
Yeah.
I know one thing for us with the sleep is like teaching them the command of place. And so place is like, this is where you lay down, this is where you relax, this is where you're quiet. And so for one of our dogs, that's a bed. The other dog, it's actually like a riser, like a hard riser. But if you leave them there long enough, they'll sleep. And so they kind of know, like, I go here to lay down, I go here to take a nap. And so I think over time that's been helpful. But sleep is a tricky one because I don't think a lot of us think about it or consider it. The other one you mentioned were like different plugins and candles and environmentally what's in your house. I started to think about this several years ago. I was just using, whatever cleaner you get at the drugstore and cleaners I had used forever, and started to really research that and understand how a lot of those chemicals could affect my dog, not only their behavior, but like their overall system, right? It could
Yeah.
kind of cause different issues, whether it be neurological or something else. And so that was interesting, and the same for humans, really. And so that was one of the changes that we also made, was changing our cleaners to like a non-toxic cleaner, which
Yeah.
is great for us, great for them. I still do love candles. I buy non-toxic candles and I have a lot less and I burn a lot less. But you still have to wonder. I know I wonder. I'm like, I wonder if this is affecting my dogs one way or the other, because I know that their
Yeah.
sense of smell is so much more heightened than mine. So it's one of those things you're always kind of like teetering, you're like, is this still safe to do?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I totally, as you said earlier, we don't know what we don't know, and until someone kind of points that out to you, or until you start to think about it. So as part of, like, I have a Magic Circle membership as part of the Dog Witch, and I teach people how to make their own reed diffusers, how to make their own candles, things like that. I
Oh,
teach
wow.
them what oils are safe to use for your dogs, and I would always say just go with the most natural that you can, like things. Like soya is really natural and really good to burn around dogs. So if they've got like essential oils like lemon or lavender or vanilla, then those kind of things are going to be safe around your dogs. Just get to know which essential oils are toxic to dogs, and then you'll know which you're going to be able to be safely burned or used around their home as well. And all of the cleaners for our home, I teach people how to make their own. So literally everything that I use in my house is all natural. And there's maybe just like about 3 or 4 products. And then I can kind of build on that and show you how to make like a bathroom cleaner, how to make a multi-purpose
Hmm.
cleaner, how to make a carpet cleaner, that kind of thing. Um, and you can learn to do it all for yourself so that and also ultimately as well, it actually saves you money, because if you're making this all for yourself, then you're not kind of going out. I buy essential oils. I use the ones that I mainly use are lavender and lemon, and I buy them maybe once every 3 months. So
Okay.
it's really a kind of cheap way of being able to clean your home. And those two are kind of like stalwarts. Those are ones that I use quite a lot. But yeah, I mean, it's just about finding that. But my approach to that is I try to teach people as much as I can through like my blog, and through my social media posts and things like that. I'm forever just advocating, you know, do it yourself, and this is what you can do for your dogs. Just really, yeah, champion dogs as much as I can.
Hmm. And I do have a question. Can you tell us like one or two essential oils that you would never use? Because I know there's so much out there whenever you go on Google or Reddit, and it's kind of hard to sort out.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be helpful to know like what to 100% not use, that you are just like stay away
So
from.
yeah, so lemongrass is pretty toxic for dogs. So I would say
Okay.
like totally. And another one, when we're getting round about Christmas time, is like cinnamon, cloves, all of those kind of things. Cinnamon's really quite toxic for dogs, so wouldn't kind of use that in a burner or a diffuser, anything like that. What I do is I then try to give you like alternatives. So I make like simmer pots when we're coming up for Christmas, which you can then double up as a spray for your room or your bed linen or whatever. Um, and those simmer pots, I will then look at what the traditional ones are, and then look at what the oils are that are safe for dogs that you can use. So that I've got like a few recipes on my website and stuff where people can just kind of hone into that. But those ones definitely, like citrusy kind of types oils, although like a lemon essential oil is safe to use around dogs as long as it's used in the right quantities. Lemon essential oil is fine, but most of the citrusy ones definitely no go. And as I say, like things like vetiver and cinnamon, definitely not.
Yeah, I've read mixed reviews on peppermint. I don't know if you know for peppermint, but I initially had bought it to like kind of put in window seals because I always heard it would help repel bugs. And we live in Florida. We have so many bugs, and bugs are just everywhere. They're always out. Do you know, is peppermint
Yeah.
safe or not safe, or does it depend?
So spearmint is definitely one that you can't use around dogs. So this is where the confusion comes in. Spearmint is one that you wouldn't use around dogs because that is toxic. Peppermint, as long as it is 100% natural essential oils and it is diluted in a safe way for your dog. So every dog, the ratios for every dog would be different because of their breed and because of their size and their weight. But as long as you're getting your ratios right for your dog, so I would say like one drop per, I think it's 5 kilograms of weight for your dog.
Hmm.
Um, so you would kind of work out your ratios for that. But peppermint, as long as you're not using it topically on your dog, then you will be safe.
Okay, that's good to know. And then what are some just like simple daily practices for a better quality of life for your dog? Just like little things that people could implement over time.
One of the best things that I always say to people is massage. Massage, people always underestimate the power of just a couple of minutes. Not even every day, but like every other day or a couple of times a week. Massage is so beneficial for dogs, and it's not something that you don't have to like create a big ambience or like clear out a room or anything like that.
Right.
I think when we think about going for a massage, it's an event for us, but for our
Right.
dogs it's literally something that you could do sitting with your dog on the sofa whilst you're watching the television, a few minutes. um but yeah, like massage is definitely key. And again, that's something that I champion for dog owners. I learned how to do that many years ago. And then what I did was I defined it into a practice that you can do in a few minutes with your dog once you learn how to do it. And I created a course that teaches dog owners how to do that. And it's so simple. You download it, you do it at your own pace, and you literally do it whenever suits you and your dog. And sometimes, they'll just snuggle with you, at your
Hmm.
side or whatever, and you can massage their head, massage their ears. Because what we don't realise is, especially dogs with big kind of faces, big kind of like jowls, they carry quite a lot of stress in their cheeks. So to be able to kind of, just massage that gently, and obviously, your dog loves you more than anything in the world. They trust you more than anything in the world. So you're going to be able to get the best results from your dog. So if I can teach you how to do that for your dog,
Hmm.
you're going to create magic. And it's one of those things where you get the benefit as well because you are like decompressing, you're sitting having this lovely little time with your dog. All your stress and anxiety goes as well. So it benefits you as much as it benefits the dog. Um, and it helps as they get older, with like mobility issues. It helps move the fascia around their body so it can reduce like pain and inflammation in their body. So if there's one simple thing, I would say definitely massage.
Yeah, that's an easy one. I try to help my senior dog by giving him massages, especially like around his neck and his triceps because it gets so tight. And he goes for like acupuncture and laser, but that's only like once a week. And so I've been trying to help him a little bit more and just like increase that blood flow, help kind of move that fascia to prevent more restrictions or break up different adhesions. And so that's something that I have been trying to be a little bit more consistent with. Um,
Yeah.
And then my younger dogs, I have actually been kind of moving their feet around more. The more I learn about arthritis and how it can affect their joints, especially like around their feet and their paws. So I've been trying to move their feet around, but part of that is me getting them used to like having their feet touched. And so it's kind of helpful for two things because now it's also going to help for like when we get their nails trimmed, they're not going to resist as much if they're used to having their paws touched. And so it's kind of helping multiple things, right? So yeah, that's something that we've been trying to do for sure.
Yeah, totally. And as you say, the pads of the paws are the gateway to your dog's bloodstream. So if you're able to kind of massage that with some essential oils like lavender and frankincense and things, then what you're doing is over time you will build up the essential oils within their bloodstream, and that will help as they get older. It will reduce their risk of arthritis and mobility issues as well. So definitely you're doing all the right things.
Yeah, my dogs love coconut oil, so I'll use coconut oil sometimes, and it's great for their skin. But the
Yeah.
flip side of that is sometimes they will just sit and lick, and I'm like, "Ugh, do
Ah.
not lick that off."
Yeah, that's the downside, yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about some signs of imbalance. So, like, for anyone listening, if they see different behavioral or physical cues to help them know that their dog is imbalanced, what would some of those signs look like?
So you could have dogs who are suffering like with anxiety, for example, will pant, the excessive panting, or they could have their tongue sticking out. Dogs will maybe like chew their paws or chew their tail. Sometimes it can be hair loss as well. They can lose some of their fur for stress and anxiety. Dogs who are maybe like suffering with pain and things like that, their mobility, it could be like reluctance to go on walks, it could be reluctance to eat. Sometimes if dogs are in pain, they maybe don't want to eat. Um, there's so many things. If your dog suddenly starts becoming reactive towards other dogs, again, that could sometimes be a kind of indicator that there's some unseen pain going on, or there's a wee bit of anxiety, and then we would look at have things kind of changed. Have you moved house? Has your routine changed? Have you changed jobs and you're no longer at house, in the office, that kind of thing. There's so
Hmm.
many factors that can affect our dogs that we don't necessarily think of, but those are really kind of like common ones that people see right away.
Hmm. And if you see some of those signs start to show up, I mean, what's your suggestion for dog owners at that time? Like, how should they react to seeing those different shifts in their dog's behavior?
Think initially don't panic.
Yeah.
And what I would say is I would always get your dog checked out by a vet if there's something that initially is happening that you just think, oh, hang on a minute, this wasn't happening last week. Why are we suddenly getting, you're lunging and barking at every dog? Maybe go to your vet, rule out medical issues, and
Hmm.
then, then really think about what's going on within your home. As I say, like, have you changed job? Have you moved house? Has something happened that's maybe caused a bit of stress and anxiety? It could just be down to, have you changed the brand of food that you're feeding your dog? Sometimes it could
Hmm.
just be whatever ingredients is within the food just isn't agreeing with your dog. So there could just be simple things for it. But I would say initially don't panic, and then start to think about what's changed, what could be the cause of this. Rule out anything medical, and yeah, then methodically work through.
Yeah. And for people that do have a sensitive or an anxious or a reactive dog, and they've ruled out the medical, they know it's not really medically related. What are some natural support tools or like things that they can kind of do on their own to help their dog to kind of help ease whether it's that anxiety or that sensitivity? Do you have any suggestions that people can do at home?
Yeah, so you can make a little calming balm and a calming spray, which you can that provides a little bit of comfort with essential oils. I think the recipe for those are on my website. And you can, help your dog settle in their bed with a little bit of this spray on it. Something that smells of you, like whether it's a jumper, a scarf, whatever, put that into their bed. If there's a dog that is really, really stressed, create a little area. What we used to do with Zane, our dog, when he was reactive, was we left a crate and it was there all the time, and that was his safe space. And if
Hmm.
he needed time away from us, especially when our human children were born, if he needed space away, he would just take himself off and he would lie in there until he felt ready to come back and join us. Um, you can do the massage as well. Massage is so great for reducing stress and anxiety, and things like looking at the nutrition. Can you add things like immune boosters in there, like sweet potatoes, blueberries, pineapple? Can you add things like that into your dog's nutrition that's going to help them just flush out any sort of toxins that are within their body and just help them to relax and calm? And again, like sound therapy is so good for dogs. Now, I'm not saying everyone should go out and do a sound healing course, but if you have classical music that you can play in the background, that kind of, or if you do have a singing bowl in the house that you can play, anything like that will really help to calm a nervous and sensitive dog.
Hmm. We implemented the crate. It's just a crate that's available in a room for our youngest dog. He's very anxious and he's been working through it the
Yeah,
past 2 years. But the same thing, it's always accessible. So like if things get to be too much, if it's too loud or too chaotic, or he's just tired, he'll go lay in his crate.
yeah,
That's his safe place, his quiet place. And we just leave him in there until he's ready to come back out and join us. And he's the first dog that we've had kind of that anxious. And so that's been a learning experience for us, but just always having that safe place tucked away where he can just go to it. And he loves it. He associates his crate with safety, not as like
yeah,
punishment. And I think that's so
yeah,
important is you get your
yeah.
dog used to that crate so that they know like, hey, this is my safe place. I don't go here when I'm in trouble. I go here whenever I need to be quiet or relax or decompress or whatever it might be. But just kind of changing how we think about our association with crates.
Yeah, definitely. You've totally hit that spot on. There can be a lot of negativity when it comes to crate training a dog, but a lot of times, and especially in my experience, it has been that it is such a positive thing for dogs who just find the world a big scary place if it's somewhere that they can retreat to, and as long as it's used positively and not, I mean, I've never met anyone who's used it in a negative way. I've never met anyone who's used it for punishment. I would totally disagree with that anyway. But if it's there and it's safe and it has, something that smells of you, it has their favourite toys, Zane used to take his snacks in there as well, so and yeah, like sometimes, what it's like having a new baby at home, the first few months can be full on. And the dogs feel that as well. So he
Hmm.
had this space where he would literally just, because we would laugh at him, he would literally just lift his blanket and off he went. And we are like, yeah, see ya. And I mean, we find the world overwhelming at times where we just want to retreat to a safe space. So it's only
Right.
natural that we would give that for our dogs.
Yeah. Creating safety, creating predictability. And I think there's a lot to be said for how we bond with our dogs. And I think we've gotten away from that a little bit, right? We're not necessarily thinking
Yeah.
about how we're bonding with them, but bonding with them is creating safety and creating
Yes.
predictability. And so it's like when the dog knows what to expect from you and what you give that dog, then they're happier in return. It's reciprocal.
Yeah, 100%. And dogs are creatures of habit as well. So if you have a routine in place, and because we always find during the school holidays when our children are off, our dog's a little bit thrown because the routine's not quite the same.
Right.
It's like every morning he'll come on the school run with me, and then we'll go on a big walk, and then I'll come home and work, and then he comes on the school run with me again in the afternoon. So when that's not happening, he's a little bit like, "Oh my goodness, what's going on?"
Yeah.
The world is the world is a little bit upside down. So yeah, I mean, if we can create those routines where our dog knows exactly what to expect. I mean, they know when their dinner time is, they know when their breakfast time is, they know
Hmm.
when they get snacks, that kind of thing. They work to a little internal clock. And when you're late with dinner, they look at you as if, come on, what's going on? Where is my
Right.
food? That kind of thing. And yeah, just that bonding experience, as you said, and that was one of the things why I really wanted to create the massage course as well, was because that gives you such a loving bonding experience with your dog. It's just such a lovely little thing. And for me, I created that when Zane was really struggling, and I thought, I'm just going to try this on him and see what happens. And I could see his whole body just relax. It was like a kind of big exhale. And yeah, it was just like everything that he'd been holding in his body just started to really slowly come out of him. And I started doing that with him more regularly. And that's when I thought, right, I need to really start putting this into a course so that other dogs can get this. And I was really lucky at the time because I still had my dog walking gang, and a lot of the mums and dads were really happy for me to practice on their dogs. And then they would give me feedback. They would say to me, oh, they came home last night and they were so relaxed, like they were really chilled and they just slept, or they just wanted to snuggle with me, and that was really lovely. So yeah, like those bonding experiences that you can put into place with your dog is just, yeah, it's just gold when it comes to their health and
Hmm.
well-being.
Yeah. So your website has a ton of different things on it. What would you say are like the top three things that people can find on your website? Or what are maybe like the top three most like popular things?
So I would say get into the blog. There's loads of free resources in the blog. There's lots of dog friendly tips on how to clean your home naturally, how to set up your home to be dog friendly. There's lots of dog friendly recipes there. There's just lots of natural how to live with your dog. There's tips on massage and stuff like that in there as well. If you sign up to the mailing list, you'll also get a free recipe there too. The other thing is there's the dog massage course on there, which again is downloadable. You do it wherever you are in the world, and whenever you like with your dog. And the other one is the Happy Dog Reset, which I absolutely love. That's my kind of signature service, where we can focus on the 6 pillars, or we can focus on one pillar that's misaligned. Anything that's happening with your dog, we would just have a little chat over Zoom. You tell me what's going on, and I will give you some top tips and resources to go off and hopefully make life a lot better for you and your dog.
Hmm. And Lisa, where can everyone find you? So website and then any social media where people can find information.
Yeah. So the website is thedogwitch.co.uk, and I'm on Instagram as the dog witch, but it's the_dog witch, and that's on Instagram and Facebook, TikTok as well is the same, and LinkedIn is just Lisa McCabe. If you're on LinkedIn, I've also just recently started Substack, but again, it's like pretty much the same as all the blogs and stuff like that there.
Hmm.
So all the resources are there on the website.
That's great. Well, Lisa, thank you for sharing all of this. We really appreciate it. I'm excited to take a look at the blog and to see a little bit more on those cleaning products and save money and help my dog. So thank you for everything that you do.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the Canine Culture Podcast. Please make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media. If you have any recommendations, any topics that you'd like to hear, if you know of any guests that would be good for the show, or if you yourself want to be a guest, please reach out to us. Send us an email at canineculturepodcast@gmail.com, or send us a direct message on social media. Thank you for listening, and please share this with any of your dog-loving friends.